coaches. That practice has enabled coaches to continue preying on children despite repeated warnings. And indistar also has revealed a culture within the gymnastics community that has allowed coaches to shift from gym to gym, again, despite warnings of inappropriate behavior. The investigation also provided the first comprehensive look at the pervasiveness of the problem, and mind you, this is really big, which revealed that at least 368 gymnasts have alleged sexual abuse over the past 20 years, so that's a big number to reach. So indistar also brought to light accusations of sexual abuse by the former team doctor of USA Gymnastics, which is Larry Nassar. That doctor has since been arrested on charges of criminal sexual conduct and child pornography. So Marisa, thank you, and we look forward to how you went about investigating this case. First, tell us what is US Gymnastics and how influential a body it is, what role does it play, and how difficult it is to penetrate a body like that.
So USA Gymnastics, as you mentioned earlier, is the national governing body for the sport of gymnastics in the US. So they are the ones who have the Olympic team. They also, in order to be able to make the Olympic team, they control the competitions, they control the pathway. So for more than 100,000 gymnasts who are trying to reach that Olympic dream, that is the way you get there. And I'm not sure how the laws work here, but in the United States, USA Gymnastics is a nonprofit, which means that not all of the information about the way they operate is available. There are 990s that show certain information, but it's really difficult to get access to what's happening.
And is it an influential body? Like, is it difficult to penetrate in the sense that in terms of access, because there are people high up there in the ladder and in the hierarchy?
There's, for many years, been a culture of fear and silence, not so much in the way of a government bureaucracy, but in the way that the gymnasts and those involved with the sport want the Olympic dream. That's what they're striving for. And speaking out could put that dream in danger because of the subjectivity of the sport and the judging process.
So how did you get leads into the story? How did you come across people? How did you manage to get testimonies and gather all that information together about this something that has been happening and to get to the details of 368 people actually complaining in the last 20 years? How did you manage that?
So we started by getting an initial tip about a lawsuit in Georgia that involved a predatory coach who'd moved from gym to gym to gym despite warning signs about his conduct. And I had actually been doing an investigation into failures to report sexual abuse at that time when somebody told me about this lawsuit. And when I flew to Georgia, I picked up almost 1,000 pages of records. And in those records, it talked about, in depositions, USA Gymnastics' policy for handling sexual abuse allegations. And in those depositions, the officials themselves said that they would receive allegations and sometimes just put them in a file drawer. They wouldn't report them to police as required by law in most states in the US. They would not, in some cases, even investigate them further. They would just file them away. And so it became really important we understood what the policy was, and we needed to understand the impact of that policy on the safety of kids in the sport. So from there, we started pulling access to court records and police records and interviewing as many people as we could to really understand the scope of the problem. And when you mentioned that 368 number, that was a later piece that we did. And by the way, that number's over 500 now. But at the time, that was how many gymnasts had alleged some form of sexual abuse against a coach or somebody involved with the sport of gymnastics over a 20-year period. Now, in the Larry Nassar case, there's more than 330 people who have alleged sexual abuse against just him, the doctor alone. So obviously that number is much higher now.
So was it difficult to go and actually get the survivors to talk to you? Because it's just like just going to someone and convincing them to share their story, which is often traumatic for them to talk about, or just spending enough time for them to be able to feel comfortable enough to share what they're going through. How was that process? How did you do that?
Interestingly, we actually did not have a lot of trouble in this particular investigation with convincing people to talk to us. But in general, when I do these types of stories, I'm always approaching the interview the same way. So I start by first explaining what I'm working on and why I want to talk to them. And giving them an opportunity as well to ask questions about what I'm working on, alleviate any concerns that they might have, so that before I ask a single question, they kind of know what they can expect, what is going to be happening over the course of the interview. And then we also made a point to, even after the interview is over, to keep in contact and let people know when the story might be coming out and when they could expect things to be happening so that there were no surprises.